Good morning and welcome to the dialogue on Soul TV. It is that time when we look back at the major events of the week. Welcome to the show. As usual, the panelists will be taking us through those major events and we give you an in-depth analysis on matters of national importance. Well, it's the last day of November and a lot has happened in this week, looking at the uncertainty surrounding the haste at the Bank of Uganda, in which it is believed that 62 billion Ugandan shillings was lost. And the money is said to have been siphoned through a cyber attack on the accounts of the central bank. Well, the Minister of Finance has acknowledged the breach and it raises, again revives the debate on the leadership of the central bank and the systems, how the monies or the accounts are safe. But also we'll be looking at another disaster that struck this week in Bulambuli, where more than 20 people now are believed to have perished in a serious landslide. We commiserate with families. It is believed that more than 1,500 have been affected by this landslide. Not the first time. That is why we also question the response, the government's response to landslides in Uganda. Not only landslides but disasters in Uganda. If it is not Kasese floods, it will be Chitezi garbage landfill. If it is not Chitezi, then it is Bulambuli or Ududa. Are we giving this issue of disasters due attention? Well, in the studios this morning, I'm privileged and pleased to have back Dr. Gerard Wedehe Wanzara, public policy researcher, but also an associate lecturer at Uganda Management Institute. Happy to have you back this morning. Speak to our viewers.
Thank you very much, Apollo. I'm happy to be back here. Good morning, our viewers. And of course, I'm happy to see my senior here, Richard. I thank God that he has kept me alive and you too, for us to interact again.
Wow.
Thank you.
You seem to have started traveling and picked that spirit of flying and flying.
Yeah, that's an infection I got from Richard. You know, sometimes when you associate, you can easily get infected. Yeah, indeed, I was around, I was in the region. It's always good to go and see the confusion there and the confusion here, and you compare the kinds of confusion.
Wow. Happy to have you back on the show.
Yeah, but one thing, I think this issue of Dr. Kiza Besigye has not remained in-house.
Yeah.
It's a serious matter across the border. Nairobi, Mombasa, when they see a Ugandan, they say you are here to kidnap people and abduct. You are extending your bad manners to our country. So I think it has really given us a bad image.
I think we look forward to a showdown on Monday in the military quarters. Martha Karua leads the lawyers to defend Dr. Kiza Besigye.
But is that court really a court? I'm questioning because for me, yes, in law I recognize that the court martial is a court, recognized the court. But when I look at what happens there, especially when it comes to politically motivated cases, sometimes I say it is not a court, it is a political wing of maybe a political party or a politician. So there are a lot of questions because we know that there are rulings here that say civilian courts are supreme, that there's also rulings that bar civilians from going to military courts, but we continue doing it over and over again. So I believe the court itself does not respect the law. So if a court is called a court but it doesn't work according to the law, then its relevancy is questioned in promoting justice.
Okay, Dr. Gerard Werewanzala, I take note that notice that he is in a national jersey. Not so sure what signal he's sending out. Richard Maguma, happy to see you back on
You
the
know
show.
the 5
The 5-1 thrashing.
Good morning, our viewers. As always, the Almighty first, the Almighty, the all-powerful, the all-graceful, the all-forgiving. Thank you for again enabling us to be here. Our viewers, of course, we are very happy that you keep with us. Apollo and management, thanks for calling us again and again. I am, first of all, I cannot apologize for infecting you.
with the manners of fun.
No, I am hoping that it's not part of these confused groups which are going to look for money to disturb our security. But
that is serious. If a Ugandan is spotted on streets of Nairobi and concern is raised over maybe fears that he or she may be there to kidnap people.
Yeah, I'm going to ask one of my staff is in Mombasa now. I'm going to Mombasa myself, not too far from today. I want to go and enjoy a bit of that. I'll be putting on a t-shirt Uganda or something.
Oh.
Yeah, so they can see how that is experienced. But you see, I think for me it's a mischaracterization to label the Chizabesige saga as a legal saga. I think it's a total mischaracterization. There's nothing legal about it. It's just a political.
It's political.
Yeah, it's just a political thing.
Well, happy and of course pleased to have you on the show, Richard. But you had an event this week about the Uganda alcohol policy conference.
Yeah, every 2 years. Uganda is the only country in Africa that has a national alcohol policy conference. But also it is appropriate because Uganda is the leading drunkard country in Africa. So we really need
we have the trophy.
We have the trophy for drinking, so we are trying to do things. We had one of the cultural leaders from West Nile, from I think he was from Arua. And he did, he's been speaking very much against alcohol, especially how it's destroying the people in West Nile in his jurisdiction. And so he brought us a list of 43 different types of alcohol, so he told his subjects to just go collecting packages of the different types
samples.
Of the packages and then he compiled the list. It was very interesting for me. Chifu, Kingi, Ryani, Tysoni, Boxer, all these. And he had a very extremely, for us, was interesting presentation. A lot of them have up to 40%
alcohol content.
Alcohol content, yes. So it was, and they are small, so they cost 1,000 shillings and less. And so we think first of all, we are totally astounded that Parliament refuses to recognize that their voters are being devastated by alcohol. We can't understand how an entire group of politicians are burying their heads in the sand. Yet the community impact is every day. So, but we have to keep trying. And now we had the Secretary General of this one, what is the interreligious? The Interreligious Council, which brings together all these groups, and he told us that they resolved that they are going to go themselves to the president to ask him why he seems to keep supporting lack of legislation that people should drink themselves senseless. That's not our president.
Okay, we hope for the best.
But to tell people, Apollo, that we are getting to the festive season. First of all, we are commemorating World AIDS Day tomorrow.
Yes.
Clearly, the statistics are very glaring that all the rural urban centers, Mbarara, Hoima, Kasese, Lira, whatever, the HIV infections are rising, and very quickly, very, very seriously. One of the drivers is this irresponsible drinking.
Oh, alcohol.
Absolutely. So the HIV/AIDS going up in this country, the statistics are very recent, and because of alcohol. But two, we are going to the festival season. Please don't die on the road. Really, just don't die on the road because you're drinking.
Thank you so much, Richard, and to our viewers, you can be part of this discussion by sending in your comments and observations on our WhatsApp line 0701609906, and we are specifically looking at the disasters happening in this country. The latest is in Bulambuli, where more than 20 people are now confirmed dead in serious landslide, and many more bodies are still buried. There's an effort that is going on the ground. I saw reports that UPDF has been deployed to help retrieve the bodies. Well, there is some relief that has been sent to help the affected residents, but also there is also money for condolences that has been expended to those families that lost their dear ones. Well, we ask a question whether we are in a disaster country, or we don't acknowledge that fact, because when it is not Kasese, then it is Chitezi, or it will be Bududa, it will be Bulambuli. We don't know where it will happen next. But Dr. Jared William-Wanzala, I remember we dedicated the whole show on this issue of disasters, but we cannot ignore it this time, especially after 20 people were confirmed dead, and others, many more actually, may be confirmed in days to come.
Thank you very much, Apollo. First of all, I want to send my sincere condolences to those who have lost their loved ones. Last evening I was with one lady whose family was washed away. Unfortunately, they cannot go for burial because even the bridges, small bridges around the area have all been damaged. And also the rain is increasing, so there is a likelihood that another landslide could happen. So you can see that painful experience that you lose your people, you can't even bury because of the risks associated with going home to do that. Maybe for the benefit of the viewers, I also want to say that Uganda is listed among the top countries in the world with vulnerabilities, vulnerabilities related to climate change and environment. It is a serious issue because if we are listed among the top, then it means that we must put in place systems that mitigate the risks, but also systems that respond to the damage, the aftermath when the risks occur. And of course, our government, as usual, is very good in documenting. I came across the National Action Plans on Risk Management. It's a very deep, comprehensive document looking at various risks, either in Kasese, flooding of River Nyamwamba, the Elgon, the Kisoro, landslides, and then, of course, others that happen regularly, like road crashes, where you find fires consuming people, explosions, and then there are many, many others. Hunger, like we know, when it rains in Elgon, the next thing you should know is that the water floods into Butaleja at the Tororo areas, and what happens there is flooding in those areas, and when it floods, it impacts food security. You find the cassava which they eat is rotting in the gardens. The same in Teso, when it overrains, the sweet potatoes and the cassava rots in the water because they don't require a lot of water, and these are lowlands. So given all these risks in the country, and the fact that when it comes to climate change, we are among the top 8 in terms of vulnerabilities, that means that we must have systems that respond and also that mitigate the damage that has been caused. This particular one in Elgon, there are a number of proposals that have been over time being proposed by government. One of them is resettling. And you know, in such an area where we know these things are prone to happen, the only way you can mitigate is by you know, like meteorology department, which focus on rain.
Yeah,
they detect and they say it is going to rain, but in this region we expect this amount of rain, and what is too much, when it's too much, this is likely to happen. Yeah, they have sometimes released the reports. Unfortunately, this information ends with us in Kampala. You don't find this information going targeted, you know, targeted dissemination to those people. But even when it reaches them, what is the alternative? Because in some countries, like we see in the US, they even have compulsory evacuation. If the risk is very high, they will send there the home guard, the home land forces, and say, get out. The risk is high, to minimize the number of people who are going to die. And you will not resist. You are taken somewhere.
But Dr. Richard, the government, our government has attempted before to resettle the people from Mududa to some other place, and even in Bulambuli to some other, to safer places where they can live peacefully. What happened? What happens afterwards? Is it because of what we hear, that the people themselves really come back and take over and reclaim their lands, or government stops at only resettling and they don't care whether they come back or not?
Now, you know, a human being, I don't know how to describe it, but people usually have attachment to areas where they come from. And maybe they're attached to the graves of their great-grandfathers, the fertile soils and the fruits they get from there. So that level of attachment is so high that you cannot just move people to another place. Like you remember, government tried to give an acre to each family in Chiriandongo. I can assure you that people left their children there, and then they came back to repossess their land, this side. So there is attachment. You look at even developed countries like US, you know, wildfires in California there, every year, burning homes. But the moment they solve the problem, they go back and rebuild and stay there. So what matters is, what I'm talking about, yes, you may never migrate everyone fully, but if there is a danger, it is raining too much, there is a risk and likelihood that landslides are going to happen. Probably there is what we call temporary evacuation. And then when the situation normalizes, people go back, because the damage is low.
That seems not to have been happening.
No, that one is not happening. It's rare. Actually, what I usually see is a landslide happening like now. Then you see the Honorable Nabanja in gumboots moving around in the area. And sometimes it really looks ugly, because we behave like we want to score political points in every situation. Every situation where people maybe have died, we feel good to go with bags of money. They say, oh, we have contributed the condolence, and yeah, as if it is a politicking thing. But these are challenges that we need to sustainably address.
That will be very unfortunate if a group of people want to score political points. I mean, in circumstances like this of Bududa, where people are losing lives and property. Richard, speak to what you think about our response to these disasters. And anyway, should we only wait to respond, or we should even prevent?
Okay, so there are two aspects. Disasters will always happen. As long as people exist, there will always be disasters. Disasters can come from anywhere, and can affect anywhere. If you look at the developed world and you relate to, for example, this Bulambuli, you have water which has submerged places like Dubai, France, Belgium, the United States. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And then here we are with water again and the soil moving. So disasters are going to continue happening. They are going to continue happening, especially because of climate change. Climate change is real. Yes, and you can see it is affecting all places. So the thing is about how preparedness, but also management. Yes, because they are going to happen, management also must be an integral part. Now, the part of the Ruwenzoris and the Ergon ranges, we know that this happens every time the rains
Actually,
will come.
every year.
Yeah, we know this happens every time the rains come. But I also want you to compare that with the budget of the department responsible for disaster preparedness and management. What is allocated in our national budget for that? So before we start even blaming the responders, because that's what we do. We focus on the responders. But how have we equipped the responders to respond? A young engineer here went and lost his life there. So what is going to happen to his family? Really? Just think about this. We don't have those many engineers. This is a young engineer is going to be buried in this because some taxi driver drove into the water. So what is going to happen? Then they say, oh, this taxi driver has been arrested. I say, but this person, did he have orphans? Does he have a widow? We are not looking there. So how do you expect the other one now to go to rescue? So how prepared are we to respond? Let's start from the resources we allocate as a government. The government technical, I am talking about the Ministry of Finance, I'm talking about the OPM itself, in its expenditure framework. What does it put to disaster management, and what is how many staff are there? I was told that these guys were moving
manpower
to go to the Tangi, the river.
Tangi River.
As they were going, they were told Bulambuli has happened. Now Bulambuli was worse. They turned. What set of equipment do we have? For God's sake, Apollo. Parliament. How much money does Parliament allocate, approve?
Richard.
Have you seen a group of MPs from Eastern Uganda having a joint position?
Yeah, I remember.
Which one?
During the Bududa.
Which one? What did they do?
Was it 2011 or what? And 2017.
It happens every year. I am waiting for them. I haven't had a statement from them, Apollo.
I'm saying, like Weri has said, on paper we document.
That's why I went away from paper, and I'm telling you.
We have policies on paper.
Yes.
And can we say these policies do not make recommendations on, for instance, like the funding you talked about?
I have read.
Yeah.
I think the policy is for 2010. I think we need to revise it. First of all, I have read this. So forget about. But there are also risk assessments, Apollo. They have up-to-date risk assessments. It is not that we don't know. I am telling you, if you are a member of Parliament from that area, where are they? Where? Have you heard them quarreling? So, for me, we want to take our UPDF and our UNRA engineers to die in that water while we are seated here and blaming them? No, I don't think so.
So you're saying
I think
there are some people who must
the fundamentals, we are not dealing with the fundamentals, and the responsible people are standing on the side and asking, oh, the member of Parliament of that place, they know these things are going to happen. How come the budget passes and you are not contesting it? Oh, because you are members of the NRM caucus and so you fear that, oh, you will be called and whipped. No. So for me, this is the deceit that triggers me. I'm like, and you're looking at them and you're like, no. You can't. Don't start sending our soldiers to go die. Which budget are the soldiers using to go which equipment? Who has imported? What every disaster, think about it. Road carnage, fire, floods, which we know are going to happen. Who has bought equipment in the last 3 financial years? Any? You are a journalist in Parliament. Go check. So we are really being annoying.
It's Richard. Well, it's a serious concern. But Richard, more related to what you've just talked about is the response, the way we respond once a disaster strikes. We rush and haphazardly send relief. Actually, now we respond quickly with relief and some condolence money. And when he said that looks more of trying to score a political to get a political score. I don't know how you look at that.
Let me start with the relief. Apollo, we are not responding with relief. There is no relief.
They sent food.
What? How much food did they send?
Kaunga and
How much food did they send? Is it rotten or not? What has been the experience in the past? Apollo? I was talking to yesterday.
We sent tapulins.
Yesterday I was speaking to the Red Cross, the head of the manager, disaster
shelter.
Yesterday we met on television together. Red Cross, it seems to be the national department.
Yeah.
For disaster.
I agree.
No. Apollo, you see, we fear really to point where the problem is. We go around to the symptoms. It is annoying. It is also deceitful that you have a department, a policy, whatever for disaster, and you put there zero. The zero you put there, people go and borrow on behalf, so it becomes negative, and they steal it. The continued scandals at the OPM have been around relief. Really, Apple. What was Mabati?
It was relief to Karamoja.
You know. So why are we sitting here as if these things are not connected? They are. And then we say response. Of course, there will be no response. You will go and put on boots. And this is an election time. I am imagining how many local politicians are squabbling to be seen to be doing something now. Of course, now we have almost perfected the Mavugo
strategy.
Or the Mavugo strategy. The money will be available, it's the one to be also people. So how can our response be the Mavugo strategy now? That is our response. We are waiting for people to die and then put it there. No. And then we claim, it is African. You see, this is how they do. The Africans first leave their people to die and then they bring Mavugo. Is that how it is African?
Thank you so much, Richard. And Dr. Werihe, he talks about, at first we believed there is some response mechanism that we can give credit, but he finally says we don't actually provide relief even in times of disasters.
Yeah, I remember you were part of what we were championing a few years back when we were launching the policy brief on disaster management in the country, and we were really focused on government having a budget for disaster. And at that time, it was only estimated that if we had only 8 billion, probably it would help in some of these cases like floods, cases like, it's not a lot of money, but it can help. And honestly, with that, you cannot say we do not have the money, because there's a lot of money that is channeled through other seemingly useless things in this country. So for me, when he talks about that and calls Red Cross a department of disaster management, I think he's right, because I remember when the Honorable Musa Echweru was the Minister for Relief and Disaster, I used to call him the minister in charge of crying, because he really used to cry whenever we had disaster, and his voice always was, we are appealing to the people to move, we are appealing to we are appealing to development partners to support us. As a government, we don't have anything. This is so embarrassing that in such a sector where we have a very beautiful document, we cannot put resources there. I think we challenge the MPs out there, and then people engage in the budget advocacy to ensure that this is pushed and government puts some money, because we created the district disaster management committees to ensure that they are closer, because when they are closer, that it is easier to detect the problem, do the assessment and respond even before the center comes in. But they are inactive. Even when there is disaster, they are not activated because they have nothing. You cannot respond to disaster when you have zero. So basically, it's zero. We talked of early warning systems. We are not seeing them working. Nyamwamba, every time floods, people die, people lose their homes. So, and these are recurrent every year.
Those are the images coming in.
These things are recurrent. If they were to happen once in a while, like typhoons, or we could know, because you may not predict where they're going to happen.
Yeah, even
but if it's about landslides, we know in Uganda where they take place. If it's about floods, we know.
Well, those are the some of the pictures coming from, I think that is for 29th. That's yesterday, just yesterday. Look at what is happening, and like Baguma said, with now the challenge of climate change, you cannot say it is going to stop or it is not going to happen anywhere else, because even the city we live in, Kampala city, is vulnerable to floods like the ones we see here. So it becomes a serious concern. I don't know if Baguma, you see any attempt to prepare and prevent maybe, or to mitigate these challenges of climate change, like you said, if at all it was going to happen to this city. I don't know what would happen.
No, you know, frankly, Apollo, for me, I don't see any, even picking lessons. I really don't see. You look at we would be having a supplementary now, moving, but we should have a supplementary for some land purchase of something somewhere, and the billions will be passed. You wait, you'll be seeing the parliament very closes. You know, these 100 people are buried.
Look at that.
The 100 people are buried.
I think there was a report that 4 villages were covered, decimated.
They said 5 were covered. And then we will go and have a bit of microphone. But that the disaster preparedness and management capabilities in this country, in terms of equipment,
those are the leaders.
From the area. I told you everyone has to appear. I was telling you everyone has to be.
For leaders to come out and speak about these issues. Those are the leaders in the area.
They have come out and spoken. We really. I haven't had any statement from the leaders of the area. I'm waiting. I haven't had the caucus of Bugiso, whatever, in parliament meeting to talk. I haven't. I haven't had the LC5 chairpersons. Parliament
adjourned on Thursday. Possibly we will see them when it resumes on Tuesday.
Do they have to? Do they have each other's phones? They don't know where to meet in Bari. There's no boardroom where they can meet.
Yeah, actually they can mobilize.
You see, it's the same. Now we are talking to ourselves yesterday and saying we need to map out a route going to the West. Christmas is coming. Because our bridge is going to have a problem. Our bridge, it is going to have a problem. And we'll be having, we know Nyamwamba was flooding there. We know. So Apollo plan. I don't see. You see action. What is the increase in personnel? What is increase in the budget? What is the supplementary budget? What equipment? We knew. The other time I saw a general with a caterpillar stuck. Was it Bulambuli or here in these mountain ranges? Well, surely we couldn't purchase. So we are going to do tokenism. The relief which you tell me, which gets flagged off from here and doesn't reach. And then you journalists, you'll be carrying the stories about this one, this relief that has, this one that has
not reach their destination.
Sure.
Well, Dr. Weri, finally, talk about our preparedness to respond to the effects of climate change, because we actually, that's what we're talking about. How are we working towards building a mechanism to respond to climate change, right from prevention of these disasters as effects of climate change and other
I think there are a number of stages. One, there is what they call risk mapping, okay, disaster risk mapping, and it has been done with the support of Red Cross, the Office of the Prime Minister, and other development partners. We know the kinds of risks that are likely to happen, the disaster risks in Uganda. We know where they are located, and that document is there. The other is, do we have the structure? Yes, at the national level, we have the structure at the Office of the Prime Minister. Then it trickles down to the district disaster management committees. We have them. 3, do we have the required number of personnel to support the structures with the skills, with the inputs? No, they are not there. That is why Richard is telling you a team was moving to West Nile to respond to something. When they heard about Bulambuli, they had to turn and run this side, the east. Then 4, the financial resources. Do we have them? No, we don't have enough financial resources allocated by government towards this. But also, climate change as a whole, it is multidimensional. It has issues to do with, 1, food security, okay? You know, that seasons become unpredictable, and therefore actually in Uganda, famine is also listed as one of the, we may have food in other places, but there are places where people starve. So that is one area, like Karamoja for instance, with the arid conditions, which are worsening with charcoal burning. Now a lot of charcoal comes from Karamoja. So that's a threat to Karamoja. It's likely to become a desert. So in such circumstances, what do? That area needs like reforestation, and then access to water, probably for irrigation and things like that. I don't know whether that is happening. I believe it is not there. Then the other, there are other disasters like in the mountains. Some people need resettlement, others need mechanisms that respond, but also there is also building community resilience in the form of planting trees. Right now trees are also being cut also. There are very few. Recently we're having a meeting with the traditional leadership of Bugisu, even if I told you I'm a Republican who doesn't believe in traditional institutions, but I was looking at in respect to mobilizing people, plant trees to safeguard their homes and safeguard their gardens, and also to mitigate the effects of climate change. I think that is important. There are areas that depend on roots for food, cassava, potatoes. Those areas, every time there's rain, there is hunger in Teso, especially in the Katakwi area and so forth, where you find now mothers are hunting in the rivers to look for small fish to go and feed the homes. So I think we need just more than Mabugo strategy he talked about. That when it happens, it strikes, then because climate change is big. And that's why we talk about mitigation, response, and management.
Finally, from you, gentlemen, isn't it possible to, or for government to stamp down its feet and tell these people in those risk-prone areas, disaster-prone areas, to vacate completely, in order, as a measure to avoid these deaths that come with disasters?
Yeah, that would require a kind of a Marshall Plan, I think, because it will require heavy funding, and then it will require use of deployment and use of force. But in this country, like I usually say, there is always too much presence of the state and too much absence of the state. The presence of the state is visible when Chagulanyi is going to hold a rally, a mobilization. We will find all kinds of police vehicles saying we have orders from above, you stop, don't go here, without even quoting any law. Okay? But where there is a problem, you don't see the state. And that is why I told you one time we were in a road safety conference with Richard, and a certain driver was saying that for them, when they cross the borders and enter Uganda, they say Uganda hakuna sharia. Uganda doesn't have laws. Someone is speeding with a tanker at a terrific speed, but when he crosses to Rwanda, is disciplined. So that shows that there is something that must fundamentally change in this country.
Richard, couldn't these be preventable deaths? Can't government use its iron hand and prevent people from settling in risk-prone areas?
There is no place that is not risk-prone. This studio,
but there are those who are known.
This studio where we are is risk-prone. These rights can collapse on us. So there is no place which is not risk-prone. What I think you are talking about, which you have just
we know
mentioned,
Nyamwamba
is there are those ones
year.
which are now. I think when you say is it not possible, there are two aspects you are talking about. Is can the government do it?
Yeah.
Government can do it. But you're also asking, will government do it? No, government will not do it.
Okay.
No, it will not. There is no backbone to do that. There is no interest in doing that, and no one will commit to doing that.
What we must be sure of,
we're going to have a few more deaths. The condolence strategy is being perfected. It will be, money will be available. I think there is even a condolence fund somewhere already, and it will be available.
Well, those are questions around the contingency fund to cater for such disasters, but also the comprehensive risk management policy, which we are sure and we know is in place, but implementation and support is lacking. Send in your comments and observations. Tell us what you think about the response and management of the disasters in this country. As we wind up in just 6 minutes from now, I don't know if you, Richard, you can make an appeal. I don't know. You choose the members of parliament, but they are local leaders on the ground. They are right from the district level to village level. Do they have a role they can play in this whole thing?
I just said I haven't had them.
Oh.
I haven't had a joint.
I thought we were talking about legislators.
No, I talked about LC5. I haven't had a joint statement. This thing has been happening. This thing in the Ergon has been happening. I have not had a joint statement, a joint position of the LC5 chairmen or chairwomen there on this matter. I have not had. Maybe they are engaging government quietly. Yeah, because you see, I look at the members of parliament, like from Bugisu, they will not challenge the government. And you see, when you say challenge the government, it means you are challenging President Yoweri Museveni. That when you come to speak some truth, some honest truth, and say, Your Excellency, in Bugisu, in the Rwenzoris, and they give you 90-something% votes. Can we? We know you need classified of 500 billion. We know. But can we take off according to 80 billion? Your Excellency, we are all members of parliament and we support you. Please, let us go and buy some equipment. We know it will be standby there and we shall use it. Let's go and sensitize our people and tell them, let's go and study why do we move? Human beings don't move. I was seeing the people with the fires in Australia. Yes, But if we move them, we should not come and grab their land. You see, Toro, we are
that's another
dishonest
challenge.
about many things. When I move from here and the mud covers all the vegetation, when I come, then you have taken over my land. Yeah, that's why I fear to go. So there are certain things, honestly, we should also be a little frank about. So I told you, Apollo, let's wait for a new story. The immediate, for me, the most immediate threat now is the threat on the relief food. Because it's going to be stored before it reaches the people. Now that's for me the most immediate threat.
Dr. Weruhe, this I think requires concerted effort of local leaders, including religious leaders, cultural leaders, and opinion leaders in the region. What do you think? Are they playing an active role on handling and managing such a disasters?
Yeah, I think one of their roles is one, community mobilization, but also, like I told you, the district disaster committees, they can also support in response. However, like we said, what to use is the problem. It's like, but also they do advocacy, what Richard is talking about, that if he saw all of them issue a joint statement, like, by the way, there's something I missed. During the LRA war, we used to see the MPs, the Greater North, at that time used to stand together and say something. There was an incident when government was proposing to go and supply mobile toilets in the IDP camps. And at that time, there were reports that we were losing about 1,000 children every week due to malnutrition, disease, and so in the IDPs in northern Uganda. But at the same time, there was no food. So the MPs challenged the government and said, why are you giving us toilets when we don't have food? What are we going to use the toilets for? So that struck government, and eventually they had to dialogue to ensure that some money goes into food and some money goes into hygiene. So we need such voices. By the way, I don't like this politics of people abusing each other, stupid, kumanyoka, and things like that. I want people to challenge government on issues that affect the people.
Thank you so much, viewers. Thank you so much, the panel. We'll go for a short break, and when we return, we'll be looking at the money heist at the Bank of Uganda. It is said that 62 billion Ugandan shillings was siphoned from the accounts of the central bank by hackers through a cyber attack. But of course, the investigations are going on, but part of the investigation focuses on whether this could be an inside job, collusion. Join us in the next hour. Let's go for a short break and we'll return after this short while.